It's that, right?
Yeah.
Nextel had to buy the phone for us, and within a week, 10,000 people were calling a week. And
It was like 600,000 hits.
we had guys on our show who had never, we had guys on our crew who'd never ever been able to get a sense of, you know, because they walk around anonymously and they work 15 hours
Of
a
the
day.
power of the show.
Of what it was doing.
The
I mean,
reach.
they would sit and talk to people that were calling in. It was actually fantastic. Our production designer, I don't think you could pull him away from us. We had to finally send him to a self-help program.
12-step program to get you out.
Yeah, 12-step off the phone.
But you opened it 24 hours a day, there was somebody on there.
Yeah,
You
it
just
was,
opened the phone, there's somebody on there.
And they cared about what we were doing. They cared, didn't
About
necessarily...
character, about development, about story,
All
about
of it. They didn't. They cared about set design. They cared about
choices.
Why it looked the way it did. Whose choice was that?
they're very
They
observant.
didn't always agree with everything that we were doing, but there was and what I'm trying to get to in a really long-winded way is there's a level of commitment that the audience has made that is watching our show to the show.
But do they have any impact on the show, though?
They're the reason we're still making it.
No, I understand that. In
But
terms
outside of that, no.
No.
No. I think those choices have to be, they have to be made on a very personal level, from me as an actor, from you as an actor, from Kim as an actor.
I actually
from
listened to
Carlos,
quite a bit.
on a very personal level from the
Every
writers.
day. What do they tell me?
I'm reading and reading. Oh, that's how I should play that.
Do you have any influence over your characters in terms of what you might want them to do?
No, none whatsoever. And we only get the script, you know. We shoot a show in 8 days, and you get the script.
This is where the first interview is going to contradict the second. This is my favorite part. Is I was just so,
You were in both. So you get the script, and you know the next day you're shooting, you know, and I think that's also part of the reason. I mean, there are many reasons, but that's one of the reasons that it works. Sometimes you read through the scene, you do a semi-rehearsal, and then you shoot it, and that sort of captures, perhaps that captures the urgency. You know?
I think this is where maybe it differs for how long you've been around, though, because it's tough to walk in and your position and feel like you can influence that. I mean, I know the writers and producers have always been really open about discussing ideas of things. I mean, not, you know, they have, not to a great degree, but you can absolutely walk into their office and talk about how a scene should go, and if you've got feelings of strongly
right.
which way it should go, how we can rewrite. Yeah, right.
No, but I think if it's still telling, if it's about the story, and I think you believe strongly enough in something, and I mean, I know that Kiefer and I have talked many a times with John Cassar and tried and sort of gotten the blessing from upstairs of the writers and changed certain things. So I do disagree a little bit.
Now, has the character changed in a way that you had an influence on, you think?
I think a little bit, you know.
She's more?
Well, I think instead of keeping it sort of one tone the entire time, we wanted to make sure that, you know, Audrey evolved and the relationship with everything that was coming into our lives within this 24 hours changed.
It is an interesting show in that there are all these choices being made that you don't know how they're going to turn out, whether it's the relationships or whether you are going to, you now have a rival plot, which is not just the conflict between the two of you, but it's now the question of what happened to you early at the embassy and China.
Yeah. Well, and the implications of that are huge. But it's also such a fascinating aspect of this world. How involved, where people are getting their financing from, where they're getting their information from, where they're getting their actual weaponry from, where they're getting so many different things. So many different places get pulled in. I mean, 9/11 was a perfect example of that, about when you actually backtracked everything. Canada, France, so many other places were implicated.
Right.
This is truly a global issue. This is a global problem.
It is the most important issue, as I said.
And the fact that they had the guts, because it's a very dangerous thing to actually stick the Chinese embassy in your show, then raid it, and kill one of their senior officers. That's a very risky move. And I applaud the writers.
Risky move because...
In a world of not trying to offend anybody or say, you know, in trying to be quite delicate. Joel and Bob and Howard and Michael and the rest of the writers on our show are not delicate. They have created this fantastical world, but
They're willing to take chances,
Absolutely.
willing to take
They're
on
not
big
afraid.
issues. They're willing to create
Yeah.
characters that have flaws and make choices that are...
The choices that normally you couldn't make on network television, and that doesn't, they never back down from a choice because, oh, we shouldn't put that on television.
Network television. I'm talking about in all other mediums too,
Yeah.
whether it's film or theater. You don't have to necessarily agree with everything that they're putting forward in the show, but they're actually dealing with what they believe is happening in the world on some level, and they're not shying down from... it wasn't a pretend embassy. It was the Chinese embassy that they attacked.
You think we understand, and should we understand now, what it is that drives Marwan, why he is doing this?
He articulates it.
Already, in terms of the speech he made, or in terms of what?
In a conversation that he has with me, he articulates it. He articulates it very clearly. What he
That's a great
finds
moment, isn't it?
unacceptable.
As an actor, for both of you.
It's a really important moment. It's an important moment because we run such a huge risk of telling a story of black and white and good and bad and da-da-da, but to actually have this conversation where someone articulates what they don't like about this country and what they don't like about the way this country has behaved in other countries, and what his problems are with their foreign policy and the lack of money that is equally shared around the world.